I have finally captured the Princess of Hyrule. Learn to speak, idiot.
Bowser? Bowser, what's the matter, buddy? What's that? Somebody stole your ball of yarn? And they said they like dogs better? How dare they? Wait, it was Kamek? I can't help but see some irony in this. Fine, I'll get it back for you. Now come here. Some things in life are just there to make you feel happy. Like this cute fluffy guy. You know who else is cute and fluffy? Yoshi. Here you go.
Now, don't get me wrong, I know saying Yoshi is a fluffy thing comes across as a bit bizarre, but just look at him! This game was made with one goal in mind, to make people happy. From the moment you turn on the game, you're instantly uplifted by the adorable aesthetic. Bowser's underling Kamek comes to what's called Craft Island, where the Yoshi clan resides. Kamek devilishly turns the adorable herd of Yoshi into bundles of yarn, except two who manage to escape Kamek's magic by hiding in a little bush, nest, egg thing. A green Yoshi and a red Yoshi. The fact that two Yoshis, Yoshi? What's the plural of this? Oh, Yoshis apparently. Okay, well basically this implies co-op, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So after Kamek steals a bunch of Yoshis, our valiant survivors pursue Kamek in hopes of retrieving their friends. Luckily, Kamek ends up losing a bunch of the yarn bundles along the way, and it's up to you to get them back and put your friends back together. The hub world is very reminiscent of Super Mario 3D World, in that you can freely run around in 3D space and enter levels at ease. Spread over the hub world, you'll bump into yarn-drabbed Miis who, when approached, show off Miiverse posts, created by the person who owns the Mii in question. This game is littered with Miiverse posts. Before each level, you see 3 randomly selected posts, all relating to the game of course, and I like this. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but I think Nintendo's Miiverse and the way they implement it into their games is just great. Since they push the posts so much, chances are it will be seen by loads of people. And this makes you feel more inclined to actually post things, since they actually do serve a purpose. Although I could do with less dicks on the Smash Bros. Miiverse level. Just saying. The levels are numbered like usual, 1-1 meaning World 1, Level 1 and so on. Yoshi Woolly World is very similar to other Yoshi platformers, such as Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo, but in case you haven't played a Yoshi platformer game before, I'll give you a rundown. A typical Yoshi platformer is much like a Super Mario Bros, but obviously Yoshi has a few unique abilities in comparison to our portly plumbers. For instance, Yoshi is well known for his interesting stomach and appetite, being able to eat enemies and other such things and turn them into eggs, which he can then toss at his enemies. Unless we're talking about Super Mario World, where he simply eats the enemies or spits out a shell, or fire, or flies. Quite a big change there. So Yoshi runs, he jumps, he flutter jumps, which is really handy in Woolly Worlds by the way. He eats people, pops out eggs, throws eggs at people, and ground pounds much like Mario. So now that we know what a Yoshi game is like, on to Woolly World. In Woolly World, Yoshi no longer pops out eggs when you eat enemies, but rather balls of yarn, which you can then throw and they ricochet off the walls a couple times before vanishing. They work pretty much the same as the eggs in the older games. You press ZR on the Wii U gamepad and Yoshi will begin aiming his throw. You'll see a line and a reticule in front of Yoshi, and you have to time your input to where you'd like to throw. It's fairly easy, but still takes a bit of getting used to. The fact that it's yarn balls and not eggs in this game actually serves a function and isn't simply there to fit with the game's visuals, as throughout you'll see these things which look like wires. These are supposed to be like a wire framework for an object, and what you do is you hit them with a ball of yarn and they'll turn into platforms, warp pipes, or flowers. So when traversing the levels, be sure to look out for these, as some of them can be easy to miss. And speaking of things being easy to miss, there are hidden areas everywhere in this game. Like, it is riddled with them, and some of them you can easily miss, and you'll have to restart the level all over again to get another chance at getting to them. I'll give you one for free. On level 1-3, you have to push these balls which look like the face of Chain Chomp, and there's one area which has a low hanging roof, and you have to push one of these balls through this area, and once you get to the end of this area, the ball gets put into a small pit and you can't get it back out. And if you just walked by without doing a bit of exploring, you'd miss out on the hidden area which you need the ball to get up to since it's so high. So there you go, saved you having to restart that one. In these hidden areas, you typically find gems, which are this game's basic collectible, and can be used for a few things, such as badges you can buy before you go into a level. They're sort of like buffs. An example is all of your yarn balls being giant, which gives them more ricochets and a bigger hitbox. But as well as gems, there are flowers. Throughout each level you'll find 5 flowers alongside the aforementioned yarn bundles, and let me tell you, these are hidden pretty damn well in some cases. There is no worse feeling of picking up a flower or yarn bundle to see that you've missed one somewhere. Very clearly, this is a game which rewards you for moving at a leisurely pace and exploring thoroughly, because like I said, there are loads of hidden areas, and they're hidden in more ways than just the usual cutaway areas you'd see in games like News for My Bros. You can occasionally find these little bits of thread sticking out of certain areas. It looks sort of like a shoe knot, and if you use Yoshi's tongue, it'll unravel the yarn to reveal a hidden area with lots of goodies inside. The most tricky hidden areas are parts of the environment where you can push the yarn and it folds to reveal the area. These ones can be a bit trickier to find. They have a sort of wrinkled look to them, so keep an eye out for that. So my recommendation, make Yoshi hit his head on every ceiling, run into every wall, and keep an eye for every loose thread of yarn. So it's a platforming game without some sort of hazards or enemies, and this game is not in short supply. Luckily, you have plenty of health in this game. You can pick up these cheery little hearts to replenish your health, which can let you take a few hits, which makes things easier than a game like Mario where you can only take one hit unless you have some kind of power-up. The enemies are pretty common enemies found in the Mario series: Shy Guys, moles, little flower guys, and strange bird fish things. You can either jump on their heads to defeat them, or you could use Yoshi's tongue to eat them, which has the added benefit of rewarding you with a ball of yarn, and the colour of the yarn actually resembles the colour of the enemy you just ate. There are also environmental hazards such as big rotating spikes or lava. These you can avoid using moves like Yoshi's crouch where he lies belly down on the floor, and just looks adorable while doing so. That and his flutter jump, which you can use multiple times before falling. The levels are nice and varied. Based on the hub world icon, you can get an idea of what to expect in the level, each one focusing on one particular object or recurring puzzle, such as the chain chomp style balls that you find in that one level I mentioned. As you progress through any given level, you'll bump into a couple things. Checkpoints, which are obviously just places you return to should you deplete all your health instead of starting the level all over again. And you also find a variety of doors. Each door has the Yoshi egg pattern on them. You get blue doors and green doors. Blue doors have multiple functions. Certain blue doors, and the same can be said about warp pipes, bring you to secret areas where you can find flowers or more gems, and sometimes even the yarn bundles are hidden in these rooms too. Other blue doors simply take you to the next part of the stage, and these doors you should be wary of, as once you pass through it you can't go back, so you should try to make sure you've collected all the available flowers and yarn in the area. And finally, the green doors. These are the most interesting. They're green doors with a question mark symbol on them, and when opened have a rainbow pattern inside. When you enter, Yoshi gets sucked into an egg and then pops back out in some kind of different form, such as Mega Yoshi where he's giant, or Motorbike Yoshi where obviously he's a motorbike. And these forms are their own little sections of the level, and these work surprisingly well. They're all really fun to play and have a simple goal: get to the big rainbow ring at the end. You're on a time limit, but you can find pickups which give you extra time, and usually in these sections there's at least one yarn bundle. The motorbike one was really interesting to me. You move much quicker and drive up and down walls, all while making time jumps to pick up gems. These sections are great as they give you a fresh change of pace and give you just enough challenge so you have a feeling of accomplishment when you finish them. Unless you're a moron like me and take too long picking up gems and time runs out right when you're at the end. So as you can tell, this game has plenty to offer in terms of variety. There's even neat little bonus games at the end of levels, typically tasking you with collecting as much of the fruit on screen as you can, by using yarn balls to hit the fruit to collect them, or by jumping on the spring ball things. Something which I really like that comes a bit into the game is a little dog character called Poochie, and he is adorable. Oh boy, how many times have I said adorable already? Counter time! Adorable. Poochie appears midway through World 2, and he's one of the best sidekicks ever for multiple reasons. Firstly, he's indestructible. I remember when I first found him and started to play the level. I froze up when I saw him falling into a spike pit, and I just stared for like a minute as I took in that he was okay and that I didn't just kill the adorable guy. So why do we need Poochie? What purpose does he serve? Well, Poochie can obviously help you by letting you ride on his back across hazardous floors, such as spikes or lava, as well as help you get to higher ground, as he has some crazy jumping skills. I can't help but think about how Yoshi is riding Poochie. It makes me think of Mario riding Yoshi, as Yoshi is riding Poochie. I guess even sidekicks need sidekicks. One thing that Poochie does that when you first see it, it just fills you with happiness, is when he fetches you a flower or a yarn bundle. He literally jumps and grabs it with his mouth and brings it back to you, and it just warms my f***ing heart. What isn't there to love about this little guy? He's fluffy, he's helpful, and he's freaking adorable! Poochie appears in certain levels, but once you play the first level he appears in, you will receive a Poochie badge. Remember how I mentioned badges? Well, this badge lets you bring Poochie with you into any level you want, and it's a super cheap badge too, and probably one of the more helpful ones since when you're riding on Poochie, he just plows through enemies. Nothing stops this guy. He does not mess around, and delightfully you can even unlock a Poochie colour option for Yoshi, so if you feel inclined you can match your fluffy canine pal as you go through the game.
I suppose this is as good a time as any to talk about co-op. Right, this couch is getting crowded.
You can have somebody join you before you begin playing when you first boot the game up, or before you start a level by simply selecting co-op start, and you can both equip your own badges. The effects of some badges can be used by both, such as large balls of yarn, since you can just pass them over to each other. Or if you bring Poochie with you, you can both jump in his back. One thing to be sure of when playing co-op is to have somebody reliable, and not your girlfriend who 2 seconds into the first level gets you killed by literally throwing you into lava. So yeah, you can interact with each other in co-op in ways which I could see being really fun when you both work together competently. The main thing I really like is how you can swallow the other player and turn them into a ball of yarn. You can then throw them, so it's a good tactic for reaching higher ground. Of course, the fact that you can easily swallow each other means there's plenty of opportunities to screw each other over, be it intentional or otherwise. However, if the other player swallows you and turns you into a yarn ball, you can button mash your way to freedom, so it's not like you can't escape from a trolling friend. A lot of the time though, it's like playing New Super Mario Bros. Multiplayer, where you constantly pick up and throw each other around and it just devolves into chaos. But that doesn't mean that isn't fun, as long as you don't take things too seriously. Personally, for co-op, I kind of recommend mellow mode since you have plenty more opportunities to save yourself from falling into pits and other such hazards. I should also mention the control schemes available in this game, as that somewhat connects to the co-op, considering when you start the game yourself, as well as when a second player is joining, you have to press a button on a controller and you can have a few different control schemes. These include the standard Wii U gamepad, the Wii U Gamepad Pro, a Wiimote, and a classic controller, which obviously you plug into a Wiimote. The controller schemes aren't drastically different in any way, although the Wiimote has the added benefit of having a tilt option for when you're aiming your throw, so instead of having to time it based on the movement of the reticule, you can literally just aim it manually. Now one thing I haven't talked about yet is Yoshi's colours. As you may remember from the adorable commercials for this game, they showed off a load of different coloured Yoshis. Now you start off with a green Yoshi and a red Yoshi, and the way you unlock more colours is by collecting all 5 yarn bundles on any given level. This puts that particular Yoshi back together, and you can either switch to that Yoshi by talking to it on the overworld or by accessing the Yoshi hut on Craft Island. There are however a few different ways to access different colours, and this is by using your amiibo. Now sadly I won't be talking about the Yarn Yoshi amiibo because I was unable to get one.
Damn you, Ivan!
That being said, the Yarn Yoshi amiibo serves a different function than giving you a new colour. The Yarn Yoshi amiibo gives you a second Yoshi to control while playing, as far as I can tell, anyway, considering. The amiibo skins are great, however. I have 14 amiibo currently, and I put them all in just to see what the skins were like, and they all look pretty spot on. I was genuinely impressed at how nice they look. My favourite being Captain Falcon, but I do enjoy mixing up which skin I play with, and I guess even Yoshi heard the Splatoon song. So everything I've shown you up until now takes place in Classic mode, this being the standard Yoshi Woolly World experience. But you know how Nintendo are, they like to make sure that their games are playable to everyone of all skill levels, and for those who find typical platforming just a bit too difficult, or if you simply want to play without so much of a challenge, you can switch over to melee mode and play a much easier version of Woolly World. You can see similar things in games such as Super Mario 3D World or even in the later new Super Mario Bros. Games, where you'd get the white and gold Tanuki leaf which made you invincible and able to fly. The problem with utilising that power up in those games is that they don't class using them as an actual victory, and eventually if you're a true to heart completionist, you'd have to return to that level to finish it the way it was intended, with some good old hard work. Yoshi however is not like that. If you finish a level on mellow mode, it's classed as a proper victory, no penalisation whatsoever. So what is mellow mode exactly then? The most obvious differences are firstly that Yoshi has wings, and with these wings he can fly indefinitely. So you can breeze through a level without having to fear falling into a dreaded pitfall. Next, you take less damage, and when you find hearts to replenish lost health, they appear in larger quantities, which is always nice. And the last obvious change is that your aiming is slower, so it moves up and down at a much slower rate, making it easier to nail those precise throws that in conjunction with the wings, makes it much easier and much less stressful to try and perform those in the air. I personally don't feel like mellow mode is for me, as I like the challenge found in classic mode. It's not hair-rippingly frustrating like a lot of other platformer games. It's easy enough to keep you interested in retrying, but it's not so easy that it feels like victory is just handed to you. Now Yoshi, if you'd be so kind, could you toss one of those balls of yarn my way? I've got a cat here who could really use some cheering up.
Welcome to Baking Time with Ivan.